2019 elections, what is going on, how is it going, how prepared are we, whether it comes to the political parties or it comes to INEC. We get to talk about everything at this time. And you definitely can join in the conversation as well. You can tweet at ClassicFM943 and hashtag countdown, or you can send a WhatsApp message to 0909-697-5943. So today on the countdown, I did say that I was going to have a guest, and I have Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi right here in the studio. Is the Chief Press Secretary to the Chairman for INEC, Honorable Mahmoud Yakub. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Faith.
Okay, so it is an interesting time to work in INEC.
Really?
Isn't it? I mean, you're always in the news.
It's a tough time.
It's a tough time, right?
At this time.
That's the better word. I mean, you're always in the news, number one. I mean, and you have to, deal with accusations and allegations, and there's so much pressure on INEC at this time again, especially, of course, looking at the elections in 2015, and people are expecting it, progress, like build on it and have better and more credible elections. I mean, just curious, how has that process been for you? The pressure, how have you been dealing with it in INEC?
Well, we are used to pressure. In 2015, it was exactly even more pronounced now anyway. But there is nothing the political parties are doing to us now
that is new, right?
That's right. So we are used to it.
You're used to it.
We take it in our stride.
Okay. So, I mean, talking about taking in your stride, last week there was that publication about diaspora voting. I remember calling you to ask you, okay, so what's going on with this? And it was interesting how most of the, papers reported it as, diaspora voting and all that. Of course, it had political parties jumping on it as well. I know you sent out a statement and we talked about it, but I wanted to also talk about it here on the air. Diaspora voting it's a no, right? I mean, we're looking at especially IDP camps as well. People who are refugees who probably have had to flee because of Boko Haram or any other, clashes or crisis. And some of them are not even in Nigeria. So, are they disenfranchised? Can they vote?
Thank you for this opportunity, Faith. The whole thing started on December 12 when INEC launched a framework for voting for IDPs in camps in Nigeria. And unfortunately, one newspaper now misquoted the INEC chairman the next day to say that he said that arrangements have been made for IDPs in Niger Republic and Chad to vote. Now, the first problem with that story is that if you are not in Nigeria, you are no longer internally displaced. You are now a refugee. And as far as our laws are concerned, if you don't live in the country, you cannot vote during the elections, because what the law says is that you can only vote where you are registered. And the permanent voters card that you have is configured to a particular polling unit, which is supposed to be very close to where you live. So even as you live in Nigeria, you can't use the same PVC to vote in another polling unit. So it's one card to a specific polling unit. So, as the saying goes, we all know the story. Some political parties jumped on that and escalated it, and we promptly issued a statement when we saw that to say, no, that was not what the INEC chairman said, and we put the true position out there, and the rest is history.
Well, let's talk about the IDP, the internally displaced people, their voting arrangement. What is the arrangement for that? Because that's what the briefing was about.
Yes, we discovered that we have camps in about 12 states for various reasons. Boko Haram, herdsmen, farmers issues, sometimes flood and all of that. Now, they are in two categories. There are internally displaced persons in camps in their states, and then there are others in neighboring states. So the arrangement INEC is making is that for those who are in camps in their states, they will vote in all elections. But for those in camps other than their states of origin where they registered, we will make it possible for them to vote in presidential elections. So that's the process.
But even if they're voting in presidential elections, because I mean, you're saying that the way the PVC is configured right now is configured to a specific polling unit.
Yes.
So if they were registered in a certain place and now that they're displaced, they're not in that place anymore, but you say they can go to presidential elections, what happens then? Is it that they're not going to be using the card?
That's a special arrangement they were making for them. It's an unusual thing because you then you ask yourself, if you don't make that arrangement, what happens? You know, because let me tell you, if war breaks out here in Abuja, the last thing on your mind is whether one PVC is somewhere. You just want to get out to a safe place, but you still have the right to vote, right? So they have their PVCs, you know, anyway. And if you are on the register of voters, the national register, we are making that special arrangement for you to vote. But everybody will be identified. It's not that we just
in that but in that instance, would you still be able to use the smart card readers?
In which?
In this instance, for the internally displaced people.
I guess so. I think the arrangement is to have them have their PVCs. You know, I think some of them that have their PVCs, it will be easy. For those who don't have, we've cancelled the incident form. But the arrangement has been made for you to be able to vote if you're on the voter register, thumb printing and supplying your phone numbers against your name. Because the incident form is now imprinted in the voter register. But you have to be there. The important thing is the real manual voter register. You have to be there.
So now you're going to take the manual voter register to those places?
Yeah, definitely. So because the frame of the arrangement includes this, you know, gathering of data, ascertaining who is where and all of that. It may not be 100% perfect, but we are going to ensure that only those on the register are able to vote. You can't bring in people somewhere and then say, oh, okay, for instance, if you are voting tomorrow, maybe some new people arrive in camp. I don't think it's automatic that you'll be able to vote. The arrangement will be for
so there will be some sort of accreditation way before the voting day.
And you must be on the voter register.
And you must be on the voter register, so that you're accredited, you're checked. But now you said that the incidents form has encountered. I'm looking at this in the general sense, you know, which means that, you know, people are not going to be able to fill incidence forms anymore.
No.
At polling units. So what happens if there's some sort of malfunction or something? You know, what happens then?
That's what we are saying. You know, the first thing is you must have your PVC and you must go through accreditation. But you know, we discovered that for some reason, maybe the PVC is damaged and the smart card reader can no longer communicate with the card when you insert it. In that instance, your details will be in the voter's register. So at that level, we compare what we have. If the information corresponds with what you have on your card, then it's easy. We identify you, your photograph is there, your details, your age, your address, and then we don't expect that to be too much. You know. But the truth of the matter is, without PVC you cannot vote, and the smart card reader will be used. You remember, the smart card reader plays two essential roles, or maybe three. One, it ascertains the card you are presenting. You know, you present yourself at the polling unit on election day with the PVC. The smart card reader determines that the PVC was actually issued by INEC. And then you have to go through the biometric protocols to convince us that you are actually the person, the owner of the PVC. So that's essentially what the smart card reader, and that's very important for the credibility of the process. Right. It is not to do anything other than to ensure that credibility. When you have passed through the protocols, then you go in and vote.
Then you go in and vote. And let's talk about going in to vote, because I know that for the Osun State elections, I had you here before the Osun State elections, and you were talking about the fact that people can't go in with their phones anymore. I mean, once you get your ballot, you can't. After you submit it, then you can pick up your phone from wherever. Is that the same thing going to be applied for general voting now in 2019?
You know, things happen. Sometimes you don't plan for these things. We were not talking about banning phones before now. And then we had the Ekiti election and something happened that we didn't expect. Now, when the issue of vote buying reared its ugly head, remember, vote buying has always been with us from the First Republic, but it's taking a new dimension. And for us at INEC, the fact that vote buying is coming up again now shows that politicians have discovered that our processes are very strong. So they can't tamper with it. So they are turning to the voters to manipulate that process through that. So when the issue of Ekiti came up, INEC quickly met and with the help of stakeholders determined that we were going to reconfigure the polling cubicles in such a way that after thumbprinting for the party of your choice, you will not be able to show anybody. You just put it in the ballot box, we change the position of the ballot box, we configure the cubicles, you are just to vote and drop it and then leave. Now, they devised another method. They started using the smart phones to take pictures of that. Now, in the run-up to the Osun election, we had the stakeholders meeting, and the stakeholders themselves told us that, look, do something about these smartphones. Make sure they don't go into the cubicles in the smartphones. So that was what led, to that idea that, look, we are not banning phones from the polling unit area generally.
Just the polling booth.
Yes, as you go, it's just between the time you collect the ballot paper and you go to, thumbprint, drop that ballot paper in the ballot box and step out. Just about 3 minutes, you have your phone back, just to ensure that that doesn't happen. It's unfortunate, but we have to do that too. It's
going to be applicable for the general elections.
Oh, definitely, yes, it will be.
Okay, so let's talk about the idea of the electoral bill. Right, I want to find an INEC's position on that. Right, so now you know that the president has refused assent to it. He's listed a couple of reasons, drafting issues, and then he's talked about how it is too close to the elections to start, having a new bill. Of course, the bill had been sent to him a few times, and he had sent it back for several reasons. And now he's saying it's too close, listing, of course, ECOWAS convention and everything. What does INEC stand on this? Will it affect the process of the elections?
Well, the truth of the matter is that INEC doesn't have a position on this. This is entirely between the executive and the National Assembly. They have powers to do what they are doing. Our own is to comply with the law. Now, as far as INEC is concerned, there is no legal lacuna. We have an existing law. And remember, the 2003 general election was conducted on the existing law. And that law is still in place. So that's the law that we are proceeding with this election. In fact, we started our planning based on the existing law, because you cannot be planning for a law that has not been made, that is not signed. Maybe it will have been, good for us to have a new amendment bill signed. Maybe depends on, how you look at it. But we don't want to get into all that controversy. As far as we are concerned, we have a legal document to work with, and we are still going to have credible elections. In fact, I think this election, the planning we have is the most rigorous in the history of INEC. And we started planning from 2015.
But let me ask you this, because you said that you started planning based on that electoral bill that we had for 2015, right?
Yes.
The electoral law then.
The existing one.
The existing one that we still have now. What if something happens and, maybe the president decides to sign it? Does that change anything? Does that, throw up the process in any way?
Let me tell you what INEC will have done.
like this soon.
If the president had signed the bill, INEC will have applied those sections that will be applicable before the general elections. But those ones that you cannot apply, like electronic voting, if the president had signed this amendment bill, there is no way INEC can implement electronic voting between now and the election period.
How do you mean? I want to break that down.
Yeah, because you have to purchase a lot of machines.
So here's the thing. I know you don't want to go into the politics of it, but I do know that a lawmaker, a PDP lawmaker, I think it was Senator Rotimi, she was saying that part of the reason why INEC's budget was so huge was because of this electronic voting, so that you can purchase equipment and what you need to make sure electronic voting happens.
I'm not sure. So many things change. The chairman of INEC stated one of the reasons, or some of the reasons why the bill was. Number one, we had 70 million registered voters as of 2015. Now, plus or minus, we have about 83 million. We registered 14.5 million between April 27, 2017 and August 31st this year. And by the time we do the deep duplication, the back-end activities where we remove, those who registered twice, and now clean up the register, those who are deceased, and all of that, it will come down a little bit. But let's say, okay, plus or minus we have the 3. So the number of registered voters has increased. Then the number of political parties, we now have 91. That means the ballot paper will change. The configuration will change. This thing comes with their own respective cost. So, and that's part of the whole thing.
You're saying that they didn't take that into cognizance when the bill was, because she was saying that we took all of that into consideration. We made sure that you have enough money to do what you need to do. That's basically why.
I think you need to see our proposal first. When politicians speak, you need to check. We know what we did, because we didn't just submit figures. We worked everything out carefully.
So INEC was not preparing for an electronic voting before.
We can't prepare for electronic voting when there is no law saying we can do that. Now the continuous voter registration. Don't forget, new machines were bought. These direct data capturing machines that enable people to do 10 fingerprints at the same time, unlike the other machines we had that didn't allow that to happen. And each machine is quite expensive. I can't say specifically how much it costs. We have to buy some of that. So these are part of the things that the equipment that we are talking about. And you have to buy ballot boxes. Remember, because of the high number of political parties, the ballot paper will be bigger, so you require bigger ballot boxes. And in our country, some of the previous boxes that we had were destroyed by familiar forces and all of that. So those things come at a cost. And then the rate of exchange has changed. In 2015, I can't recollect how much it is, but now it's about 360 something naira to the dollar. So those are the things that pushed up the election budget. Right.
So it wasn't necessarily because you were going to have money to. So you're saying that even if the bill was signed today, there are parts of it that INEC would not have been able to comply with for the general elections.
Definitely, it will have been impossible, given the time.
Things like
it's exactly 60 days to the general election today. You understand? And this is a huge country. We have almost 120,000 polling units across the country, and you don't start looking for machines to post to all those polling units 60 days to election. Even the procurement procedures will not even allow you to do that.
I'm asking this because there's been all of that controversy surrounding the electoral bill, saying that this is just going to prevent electronic voting from happening, which will curb a rigging process. So if you're saying that, regardless of whether it was signed anyway last week, which was when it was turned down, we would still not have been able to go on with that. Why then?
But it's having a credible election is not just about electronic voting. There are a whole range of issues involved. Like I said, when politicians talk, don't mind them. Pay attention to details. We are the ones conducting the election.
Well, but do you think that INEC is doing enough to even put across? Because until now that you're telling me this, I didn't even know that was an issue. I did see on social media, on Twitter, where somebody was like, well, INEC needs to do a lot more about putting out information really fast.
We are doing
before
that.
Anything, because I didn't know this until now you're saying it.
Look, we are doing a lot of information dissemination, but there is so much we can do in a country like ours. This country is very big. In fact, we are lucky because now we have the social media. When we didn't have social media, I wonder how INEC managed to, because how many newspapers do we have? Where do the newspapers get to read? You understand?
So you have radio.
And when you put adverts in newspapers, you can't even see that online. We have our Twitter. Nigerians probably don't follow us enough because we have just about a little over 1 million followers on Twitter, and we have this huge number of registered voters. If we have like 50%
of the registered voters
following us on Twitter, information will go amok. There is no day plus or minus, we have between 5 and 10 posts on Twitter
every day. But then again, we also realize
containing vital information.
Yeah, but then
on our Facebook page, same thing.
But you also realize how many people on social media now? Right? How many of the registered voters are on social media? Not a lot of them. Maybe like half of them on social media.
Yes, that's why we need, and we're engaging with stakeholders, especially religious leaders, because religion is very, very important in this country. Then traditional rulers, they are really been helping. In fact, they help a great deal during the continuous voter registration, because without them, we wouldn't have achieved.
Which are the station of every song, you know. You're in a classic lounge, 10 minutes before 2 p.m. and some holiday chair there for you. I still have in the studio Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi, the Chief Press Secretary to the Chairman for INEC, and we're talking electoral matters. And like I said, you can join in the conversation if you have a question or you have a comment. Just send it through via WhatsApp 0909-697-5943 or tweet at Classic FM 943 as well. I mean, we're talking a lot about what is going on with INEC and the electoral process. There have been several allegations, especially by the major political party, one of the major political parties as a PDP. They have accused INEC of colluding with the present administration to rig the elections. In fact, they have asked for the resignation of the chairman of INEC. You know, I want you to talk about that. You know, is there any credence to what? I mean, it sounds really simplistic to ask that question, you know, but what's your take on that?
Well, at the core of all these allegations, if you remember, I think I mentioned it earlier, is this issue of trust. I think we are very suspicious of one another in this country.
With good reason, don't you think?
Well, but it gets too much sometimes, you know. My own analysis is this: if you are married to a woman and you don't trust the woman, everywhere she goes, you think she's going to meet with a man, or you call her line is busy, you say
something is
busy.
Going on.
You know, so we must have some level of trust. And for me, this commission has been very, very transparent.
How much independence does INEC have, really? I mean, is there any reason INEC has given that they are a little more sympathetic towards a certain political party?
Certainly not. Certainly
How much
not.
independence does INEC have?
We are very much independent. I can assure you of that. There is no, in fact, there has been no influence either on the INEC chairman that I know of or the commission to do anything. You know, because we have our laws. The law is there. And I challenge any political party or any individual to give me one instance where they think that one decision we took at one point or the other since 2015 was as a result of pressure from any quarter. You know, nobody can come up with that. So every decision we take, first we subject that to scrutiny by the political parties themselves, by the civil society organization, by various groups. Every policy we have introduced, we have validated through open, you know, conversations with stakeholders. They come, they've seen what we have done, they've done the critique of it and all of that, and then it is when we agree that this thing becomes policy. And I don't think we can do anything better than that. It's not that we just go into one hall and make decision and then force that on Nigerians. We don't do that.
But talking about that, and I also know that, you know, INEC has taken objection to some accusations. In fact, INEC has called out, you know, the opposition party, saying that, you know, they're putting the lives of INEC staff at risk. I want you to expatiate on that. What does that mean exactly? Because wait, hold on, you'll get a chance to respond. So I'm looking at this particular message, you know, report where you had the spokesperson for the PDP coming out say that the party completely rejects the plan by INEC to substitute biometric accreditation with manual verification on self-recognition and thumbprinting on the voters register. They say that, and they say that it is they would afford the president and his party to manipulate themselves back to power against the racial majority of Nigerians and all of that. So that's what they said. INEC has come out and say, okay, you said you're not creating polling units anywhere. You know, I'm quoting you here, where you said that you know, you find that accusation, you know, distasteful, and you were saying that it is also something that could put the lives of your staff at risk. Expatiate on that.
You know, ordinarily, I wouldn't want to join issues with any political party, you know, and that's what I've tried to avoid for a long time, because I know this is the thing they do all the time. It's not the first time they're doing it. But I guess that when this issue of misrepresentation of fact happened, about this framework that we launched on voting for internally displaced persons, and the commission issued a statement promptly to deny and to put the position of things there, black and white. And after that, you still have a political party saying that that's what we want to do. Now, you see, we all know what is happening in other countries. This is how problems start. You put out wrong information out there, people go away with that and have this inbuilt hatred for the commission that, you continuously assert that it's fraudulent, that we cannot conduct this election and all of that. And when violence happens on election day, this is part of what leads to that. It's a build-up, and you are going to participate in the election. What I was simply saying is that, look, if you have allegations, provide the facts that, look, we have this evidence, but what all they do is they put out a lot of allegations, no evidence to back that up. And I felt that, look, I'm trying to draw your attention to the implication of what you are doing. You are putting our lives in danger, whether you like it or not, because if you continue like that and your supporters run with that all the time, there is every possibility that on election day we could come under attack. But ordinarily, it's something I don't want to get into because we are used to it. It won't stop, but I think it's just to let them know that, look, you can say whatever you like, but don't talk in this line. It's not good for this country.
Is that something that INEC is looking for a way to address, the issue of maybe insightful comments and things like that? I know that there are people who talk about it regularly, saying, oh, let's not, heat up the polity, let's not put out, insightful comments and things like that. Is there anything INEC can do on its own?
We are already doing that. We call it voter education. It's, as we move closer, a lot of things are coming up. And I think fake news is a major problem. And people also need to verify facts. Especially these days where you have all manner of information going on social media. Before you believe anything, please check. And there are ways to check.
Like double check and check
yes,
and check again.
Check, because even people who should know, people who quote and unquote are knowledgeable, are putting the wrong information out there. And that's why on our social media platforms we are continuously educating Nigerians on what we are doing, and we'll continue. In fact, we have to step up now, and part of that is also to consult with critical stakeholders. I mentioned traditional rulers the other time and religious leaders to help tell their subjects and members that this is exactly what INEC is doing. We are showing Nigerians that, look, all the elections that we have conducted, we've conducted about 195 different types of elections since 2015. Nobody has accused INEC of rigging any.
Well, I mean, they accused you of Osun State elections.
We didn't rig any election in Osun State. Nobody has.
They called into question.
Nobody has faulted our process. Our process, the process of conducting that election, nobody has faulted that. You can talk about things happening several meters away from the polling unit. And again, I don't want to be tempted to get into the conversation because this case is.
We don't have the time to get into that conversation as well. But I do know that there are people who have accused INEC of the conduct of Osun State elections, especially because it was declared inconclusive at first. They thought that there was no need for that to have been done, but let's move on past that. Now let's talk about this new report about INEC studying the court, the judgment of the Court of Appeal affirming the notification of the Congress that produced candidates of the APC in Rivers State. They also said that INEC is also still deciding on other cases filed arising from judgments and interrelated cases with similar facts. There are a lot of cases in court, where it concerns whether it was world congresses or primaries of different political parties, there are different court judgments. How is INEC handling it? How are you dealing with this? Do you even know who is exactly the candidates to be on the A ballots?
No, that's quite simple because there's a process for nominating candidates and there's a process for conducting primaries that all political parties know. Now, there's also provision in law for aggrieved persons to go to court. Now, the chairman of INEC has said it several times that the current set of primaries are the most acrimonious. It's unbelievable what's really happening. Now, when they start their fight, unfortunately they drag INEC into it. But what we mean by studying judgment is that, look, we are a law-abiding organization. If there's a valid court order or judgment or ruling, we will obey. I mean, if you go to court and get a judgment and we receive that judgment, we study it, we will comply. That's exactly what that statement was referring to.
So when you have, like the incident where a candidate is said, oh, this is not the candidate, where INEC is probably, because INEC has published names of candidates, for the elections.
Right.
And now we have for the SDP, by Friday, we knew that it was no longer Donald Trump for presidency, it was Jerry Kane now according to a court.
Right.
What happens then? INEC goes there to substitute.
Well, it has happened before. We'll just put the person, if it's a court judgment, we just put the person's name and we put in bracket by court order. That's it.
Just simple like that.
Right.
So let's talk about security situation for 2019 elections. I read a report, so it's up to you now to tell me if it's credible or not, about INEC being the body to handle payments to the police and all of that, and maybe other security apparatus. What's the truth of that?
We don't handle payments to security agencies. The security agents have their own budget, the election budget that is being dealt with separately. We have our own election budget. But of course, I know where you're coming from, because there are allegations that we budgeted some billions
for security.
That's not it. What we did is that one of the lines in our election budget says that we are going to feed all election officials, including security men that are present at polling units. For instance, if we are providing some snacks for about 3 or 4 INEC staff there, and we have 2 or 3 policemen standing nearby, courtesy demand, even in our African culture, for us to extend the same snacks, and because we know the configuration, we've been meeting with security agents, we know how they deploy, so we can make a calculation. For instance, if we say we have a 120,000 polling units, we can, from our own internal meetings and what has been happening before, how many policemen will be deployed to each polling unit, so we can plan on that figure. It could be plus or minus, but we have a round figure that we can say, okay, maybe we plan for 3. At how much is it? Each person may not be more than 1,000 naira. The same figure that you budget for INEC officials. So, and it's not the first time.
So you're not paying the security operators?
We are not paying. We are not a bank. We don't we don't pay. It's just that people are taken out of context, and we've said it several times that look, that's not what we intend.
That's not
right.
Okay, but what about collaboration with security agencies?
Oh, fantastic! I mentioned earlier that we've conducted about 195 different types of elections. Now, people may not agree with some of the things that security agencies do, but I tell you, if we didn't have that cooperation, we wouldn't have been this successful. We have this wonderful synergy. Yes, mistakes were made in some instances, but by and large, I think that synergy with security agencies has really helped us to achieve this moderate success that we had.
Okay, so would you say INEC is ready for 2019 elections?
Of course we are, because we've been preparing. That's our business. Election is what we conduct. That's our number one mandate. We've been in this business for over 25 years, and we've perfected all the mistakes. We are even still looking at our processes. Like you are rehearsing, you have a big show, on February 16 this time, 60 days away, and we are as we speak, we are still rehearsing, looking at our processes, trying to see how we can improve, because we've gone past planning stages now we are implementing, and we are looking at what could happen in case this happened, like the vote buying thing. We didn't plan for vote buying, but it happened, then we adjusted. So it's a flexible thing that we can adjust to any situation, but essentially we are ready for the election.
Okay then, thank you very much, Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi, for coming through on the show today and for answering our questions, shedding light on these issues and clarifying some positions that until now seems to be, the truth. Okay, stay tuned. You're listening to Classic FM 94.3 Abuja station that plays every song you know. There's more coming up in the Classic Lounge. Here's Greg Davies for 7 days.